Hi, my name is Mark Bernot, and I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about the Russian central bank might be potentially freezing retail bank assets. Speaking of freezing, that's why I'm out here, to illustrate the point. Freezing is not good. It's snowing, it's below zero, and it's freezing. Freezing assets in a bank, if I put my personal savings in there, put yourself in the Russian shoes, and you save to try to, hopefully, there's like, who knows how much inflation there is, but you might earn 30% at the bank. That tells you something. And then you hear that your assets are frozen. That is going to trigger a panic, a bank panic. Think about the Great Depression in the 1930s. Banks were closing on bank holidays for an extended period of time. They're not going to do that in Russia. They're going to do it in a circumvented way. What is the evidence? There is no hard, concrete evidence yet. It's coming out as ideas. Reuters confirms that the Central Bank of Russia denies it, and yet anecdotal evidence of the Russian people is their savings are being messed with in a subtle way. The Russians are doing this because, one, they can't raise capital, especially in the bond market, because nobody's going to buy a Russian bond. It's worthless. They can't do it in the equity markets. They just can't float equity and, they have a IPO. Their tax revenue base is eroded away because profits are non-existent in Russia right now. You basically can only tax profits in excess, right? That's how taxation works, when you take some of the excess. But if the natural rate and the bank rate are incongruent, and bank rates are up to 30% at the retail level, 21% at the, theoretical level, there is no way you're making 30% profit at a company. So profits are zero. You know that the budget is low to negative because they're claiming a worker shortage, and a worker shortage is nothing more. They can't pay enough. So look at this. I have some ruble. I'm restraining myself. I'm shaking. I want to destroy it in some innovative way. If you guys have some ideas on how I can destroy some ruble, let me know. And, by the way, as a monetary economist, I like to say, more colorful the money, the more ridiculous the country. Not always. Europe has some beautiful, colorful money. But the Russians are always coming out with this really, noble money. It's just a farce. Okay, enough of that. So if these assets, if these private bank assets, these retail assets in the banks are frozen, this is significant. Money, according to the Austrian School of Economics, money is important because it's the second half of every transaction. You trade something for money. And when the money market is in disequilibrium, it has a systemic effect across all markets, and that process cannot be reversed until the system collapses. Banks are important intermediaries. They coordinate investment and savings. That goes back to Knut Wicksell. That goes to Hayek, Mises. Any kind of modern economic theory, new Keynesian, new consensus, I equals S, except when it's in a disequilibrium state. And if you use the bank intermediaries, if the Russians are now so desperate, and they are desperate for money, to tap into private savings, well, this is a telling sign it's the economy on the last leg. If that is true, and I'm putting it as an if, I can expect a rapid deceleration, just decoupling of anything between monetary and real sector and something much greater than the 1990s in Russia. So I think the next step here is to confirm, is the Russian central bank trying to freeze? Speaking of freezing, it's getting colder at the moment. What I do for YouTube. Private retail savings. Put yourself in an individual's shoes. What if the government was freezing your assets, freezing your bank account? You question, why are they doing that? Now, in my last video, I talked about the Russians have this expression, it's like Mao Choviek. I don't know exactly how you translate it, but they actually have an expression, little person. And, you think maybe I'm picking on them because they have this expression, we are just little people, we can't do anything. If they're tapping into my savings, the lifeblood I have to pay the rent, feed my kids with, pay the bills. If they're that desperate for money, the Russian government, it's at the end. And the only thing that can warm up Russia and the economy is if the new administration in Washington bows its head and kneels down and says, Moscow, you're number one. Washington, we're number two. We'll warm relations. We'll cut a peace deal. We'll lift sanctions or lessen sanctions, but mostly we'll just warm relations. But if the news that they're freezing, you can look it up now. You can look it up on Reuters. If it's confirmed, that's like red alert, high alert. It's like, Star Trek, red alert flashing. There's nothing else more significant than them tapping into private savings. Because when you touch people's private savings, there becomes a decoupling between the real sector and the monetary sector. And when the monetary sector is in disequilibrium, when it diverges from money macro equilibrium, you have a systemic effect that spreads everywhere. Russia is about to collapse. And if there is no warming of relations from the number 2 Washington to the number 1 Moscow, if there's no warming of relations, this will come about, my prediction, at the end of June of 2025. Could come out in July. So that's what we're waiting for. This is significant news. The freezing of private retail bank assets, or them at least partially freezing it, is information coming out of Russia through non-official sources. Let's see if we can get some confirmation on that. No speculation. But even if it isn't true, Russia is going down. And they don't deserve to be the largest country on earth. My dream is they'd be split up into, they claim they have 180 nationalities there. Why not split it up into 180 different countries, right? That would be great. A strong country is a decentralized country. A strong where people are just left alone. So that's this monetary update from frozen Russian bank assets of individuals. And let me know how I can destroy some ruble. My name is Mark Biernad. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.